Hi everyone. If you can see me as well as if you can hear me, then please let me know because I have stopped the voice, like I cannot hear anything myself. So, first of all, thank you so much to the hackathon team, which is doing this weekly hackathon, and thanks for inviting me here. And thank you everyone for joining us right now. So welcome to the Flutter show, and we'll be building application in Flutter. I haven't prepared a lot of slides, so don't worry, this won't be boring because the topic is taking flight with Flutter. So I tried to talk about what is Flutter if someone is not aware about it, and then I'll give you just some idea, and then we will start building the application itself. Right now, if you don't know who I am, then just for the idea, my name is Pawan, and I'm a Google developer expert for Flutter, Dart, Firebase, and Web Tech. Apart from this, I run a YouTube channel called MTechViral, and I run another website which is MTechViral School, where I publish content of like tech tutorials. And you can find me on Twitter at the rate IMDPK. And Flutter, what is Flutter? So Flutter is basically another toolkit or SDK, you can say, which you can use to build native applications for Android, iOS, now web and desktop as well. So you don't have to create multiple code bases for this. So basic idea is that you will write once and it will run everywhere. Okay, so web is still in beta, or it's still in alpha, I would say, and desktop is still in a very early stage. So but we are done with mobile, so Android and iOS is working pretty good. It's totally stable, and you can do a lot of things. So that's what you will see. So right now, these are the platforms which Flutter supports, which I talked about, and in future maybe I'll add Fuchsia to this list. But as of now, there is no clarity as such about it. So the language which we use is Dart. So Dart is actually a language which is in existence from a long time, maybe from 2012. And the thing is, it came as a replacement to JavaScript initially, but that didn't work for obvious reasons. And then Flutter came, and Dart, you can say Dart got a reborn. And I personally like that because I have been like working with Java and C sharp. So if you are from it is basically familiar even if you are using any static language or dynamic language. So you can get easily started with Dart. So if someone is already familiar with TS, then I just want to show you some syntax. So let's say this is how we write things in TS. Let's say we have a pizza class, then we have a variable which is of number type, and let's say slices. Then this is how we declare constructor in TypeScript. And then there is also this concept of asynchronous programming. So we write this syntax as async in the start of the method, and then we return a promise saying that it will either resolve, or it will return some error, or it will be there are few things. So basically the main idea is that in asynchronous programming, it's you won't stop to wait for the result. You will continue your work, and once the result will come, then you will go further and deal with that result. And then if you'll see, we have again this function main, and let's say there is another object which you have created of type of class pizza, and that is dinner, and this is how you specify it. And then you can call this method using await dinner dot bake. So it will wait for the response, and once the response will come, then it will do something. So basically it will write to your console that whatever the message is printing here. Now I'll try to relate it with the Dart, and how much it is similar. So similarly, you will write class pizza in Dart. Then this is how you will specify any variable. So let's say it's a number, then we can say slices, int slice is equal to 8, or you could say num slices is equal to 8. Then similarly we have a list of string, let's say toppings, and this is how we actually have constructors in Dart. And then there is another method which is again a synchronous method, and then it is returning a future. So in JavaScript or TypeScript we call it promise, similarly we call it a future in Dart. And then there is a delay, and we have specified the duration as 5 seconds. Then again we have a main method, and that is again asynchronous. Now this is how we actually create object in Dart. So there you will see that this new keyword is not here, which was there in TypeScript. So basically in Dart it is optional, so you can use it or you can like remove it. It like both of them works fine. And then there is the same method which how you like deal with the in TypeScript. So await dinner.bake, and then rather than console.log you can actually print something. So yeah, so you can see the similarity between these two languages. So I think most of the things are very much similar. Even if you are from Java background or C# background, I think this is how you write things. There can be few things which are different, but more or less the idea is the same. So yes, it is familiar. And now let's talk about Flutter. So everything is a widget. So basically, if you are from a React background, then in React we call it components, and similarly in Flutter we call it widget. So widget is everything. Like here you can see we have two kind of widget on this screen. So this child is a widget itself, and this text which is written everything is a widget, that is also a widget. And if you can see the logo on the top, that's also a widget. Then there are two buttons, one is live, and then the count, that is also a widget. Like, so everything on the screen is, you can say, a widget. Then there are two kinds of widget. One is stateless and another is stateful. So stateless widget can be something like this. So basically there is a class hello world which extends a class stateless widget. So what it means that this particular widget is not going to change. So basically, let's say if you have a screen and there is your name, so that is not supposed to change because your name will never change. So in that case, you will use something called a stateless widget. Let's see another example. So how it is familiar with HTML. So in HTML, this is how you write class hello world. It extends an HTML element, and then you say that the inner HTML is, let's say, hello world. So if I just want to compare it with HTML, so this is how you will do it. Now comes to React. Then this is how we write hello world in React. So hello world extends react.component, although React has many ways of doing it, so I'm not like talking about it. But yeah, this is how they used to write it. And I don't develop application on React, so if something is different now, then I don't know. So there is this method. So in Flutter we have build, similarly in React it was render, and then it returns hello world. Now if we see this again, then in HTML you will see that we have a app header, and then we have a toolbar, and inside that we write a title, say my app. Then we have div, and we say text align center, and then we say hello world. So div is basically kind of a container in Flutter, so that's again a widget. Now in Flutter you start with material app, then you say title, welcome to Flutter, home, scaffold. And scaffold is basically a combination of few widgets which can give you a material application. So app bar, and you can say title, text, welcome to Flutter. And in the body you can say in the center I want to show text as hello world. So you don't have to get confused. We will see the demonstration as well. So this is the idea. Okay, and I hope you got it. So now let's say in HTML, basically this is how you write, right? And these templates are not provided by default. Like you cannot do the templating like without using any library or framework. And you don't have to even write this CSS when it comes to Flutter. So you don't have to specify like design like this, you don't have to follow this. And as well as you don't have to specify this style thing. Like you don't have to write CSS even if you want to work on Flutter web. Let's say if you want to make a web application using Flutter, that is still in very early stage, but again, if you want to use it, then you don't have to use any styles. Now this is how we write a card with a padding. So padding is basically giving some kind of shrinking that widget with 8 pixels, and then we are saying a card have a text which is hello world. Now we have a widget called gesture detector which can help you in clicking that card. So you can just tap on something and it will you can wrap the widget with gesture detector, or there is something called inkwell as well if you want to give some material feedback splash or something when you click over it. So yeah, these are the things which are available. Now when we talk about stateful widget, it is little bit different. So stateful widget is, let's say you have a screen, you will do something and it will change. So when the state will change, that's when you will use stateful widget. So example of stateful widget will be like this. Like you have a my homepage class, it will extend a stateful widget, and then you will create one object of it, and then that object will be extending this state class. And this is important because this class will give us a feature called set state. And if you are familiar with React, then you already know the concept, right? Why we use set state. So Flutter is kind of, in terms of syntax, was inspired from React. So that's why these are very much similar. So basically there is a counter which is 0, and then in the build we are saying button which is saying click me. And once you click on it, then you say this dot counter plus plus, and you do it in set state. So whenever you say set state, it goes to this build method again and it redraws the UI, or it renders the UI again. So basically, let's say you have a text over there which is showing 1, and now you want to increment it. So once you press a button, it will become 2. So that means it is changing its state. So state change is nothing but the change in the screen, you can say. So if your screen will change, that means state is changing. So yeah, you can just get the idea from that. Now so this is a lot of talking. I am not here to give you theories, and we will do something like code. Okay, so how we will start, right? That is the most important question. So let's build a GIF search engine. Okay, so that is the idea. We will try to make a GIF search engine. Um, so basically, if you haven't got the idea yet, then it's fine. You don't have to go into details. I'll explain everything from scratch again. So let's say if you're using IntelliJ or Android Studio, you have to go here and you can create file. And if you'll go to new project, so if I click here, then it will open this screen. So first of all, you have to install 2 plugins. One will be Flutter, another will be Dart. So you need those to get it to get the setup ready. And you can go to flutter.dev, from where you can actually download these things. So now once you have downloaded that Flutter SDK, and then you have also installed the Flutter plugin, so you can select Flutter from here. So there are like many options. One is Dart, one is Flutter. So you will select Flutter. Similarly, on Android Studio, there will be Flutter option as well. When you will click on create a new project, then you can say next. Then you can give the project name, project location, and project type. So there are 3 types of project which you can create. One is application, which we will be creating today. Second one is plugin. So plugin is something which is kind of a library which deals with different operating systems. So let's say if you want to write a plugin, so that will be written in Kotlin for Android, and let's say Swift for in Swift for iOS, and then it will create an interface so that you can talk with Flutter. So that is a plugin. A package is something which is kind of everything is written in Dart, and you have already done a kind of work, and maybe you have made some predefined widgets. Then you can create a package of it, and then people can use it. So that is the difference between package and plugin. So package is purely Dart. Plugin can have different languages. Let's say it can have JavaScript, it can have Kotlin, Objective C, Java, or Swift. And then application is normally how we write application. Then you will say organization name here. Then you will choose Android language, which is Java or Kotlin. So by default it will be Kotlin, and okay. And in iOS, you can use either Objective C and Swift. So I got some question. Let me just tell you the answers first. Which works fast, emulator or actual device? Then actual device for sure. And VS Code is definitely a lighter ID and faster ID, but you can use any. That's not a problem. And why I use underscore in class name? Because in Dart, whenever you want to make anything private, then you have to use underscore. So yeah, that's the answer. And then you can get started with your Flutter application, and you can click finish. So once you click finish, you will get this kind of folder. I'm not creating it to save some time. So basically this is what you will get. So there will be, if you can see here, let me just zoom it a little bit if that will be visible. Yes, I think this is fine. So here you can see we have one Android folder. So if you will go inside it, this will exactly look like how things look in Android. So there is an app folder, then there will be Gradle, there will be build.gradle, and all these files which are important. In the app you will find source, then in the main you will find Java Kotlin folder, res folder for resources, then manifest file will be there. So everything will be the same. Similarly, we have a iOS folder. So in iOS folder, you will see that you have the same runner. Then you have app delegate.swift, info.plist, all those components which you need for iOS application. Similarly, if you will go to Mac OS, then it is more or less same. If you haven't used it, then it is kind of very much similar to how iOS structure looks like. Then there is web. In web, you will find two files. One is index.html and second is manifest.json. So index.html, if I open it, then you will see that this is a pure HTML, and you basically don't have to like do anything here. So whatever you have to change, maybe you will go to your manifest.json and you will change the names and etc. By default, it will give some properties here, but you can change it. And just for the simplicity, I am actually increasing the font size a little bit so that it can be better. Um, so just be with me. And till then, you can ask your questions if you have any. Okay, so now I can set here in the editor font. Let's make it 22. Okay, so this is fine. So basically, everything is here in the lib folder. So in the lib folder, if you will see, I have like initially you will get this one file which is main.dart, and I have created two more files over it. So in the main.dart, there will be, it is importing material.dart, which is for material design, and then I'm importing another file which is for writing our application. So basically everything starts with this main method, and then we call run app. So run app is a method which will help you in bootstrapping your application, and you will give your application here. So you can say my app. So now my app extending stateless widget, which means that this is not going to change, right? So my app is never going to change. It will always be the same application. So that's why it is stateless. And then it every widget has this build method where we get this context. So context you can understand as maybe location of your widget in the widget tree. So if you are familiar with web, there is DOM, right? So DOM is kind of a tree. Similarly, in Flutter, we have this widget tree, and context actually gives you location of the widgets in the widget tree. That you can understand it like this. Actually, if you'll go into detail, then you will find there are three different trees, and this is something related to element tree. And I don't want to make it complex, so just understand it like this. This will tell you the location of your widget in the widget tree. Then you get material app. Similarly, if you want to focus on let's say iOS, then you can like if you want the iOS specific design, then you can say Cupertino app. So here you will see we have something called Cupertino app as well, right? So yeah, this will also work, but to make it work, you have to import, rather than material, you will import Cupertino. Or you can have a check like if it is iOS, then use Cupertino app. or if it is Android, then use Material app. It's totally your choice, or you can use it for both platform or any platform. It doesn't make like more difficulties. Then we are saying that check the like debug banner as false, which means that it won't show any debug banner. By default it shows one. And then it shows theme data as like primary color is green, and visual density is basically it is actually, if you see the material design guidelines, then it has this density section where you can read about it. So I'll not go into details. I'll rather focus on the main application. And now we have this Jiffy page. So inside the Jiffy page, I have written some code and I'll try to rewrite it again. So let me show you how things will look once we complete our application. So let me just try to run it on my OnePlus device, or it will take some time. And by the time I can again take your questions, and then we will start building the application. So if I am like running like fast, then also let me know, although we have some time limit, so that's why I am doing it a little bit faster. But then I'll try to explain everything again, and maybe in future also you can revisit, and you can watch the video again. So let me just give you another idea that what we are like missing here. So here is one more important thing. So if you will see this structure, let me zoom it a little bit. So here you will see this file which is very important, and that is pubspec.yaml. So like if you are from Android, then you might be aware with build.gradle. And if you are from, let's say, web, then you might be aware with package.json. So it is something similar to that. So in pubspec.yaml, you write about what is your version. You write about which libraries it is using, or which packages it is using, or which plugins it is using. So if I show you this, then you will see the name is there, the description is there, and then it has all the details like what packages we are using. So I am right now using two packages. One is HTTP. So HTTP package is important for getting the networking library, so that we can perform network operations. Let's say we can do get request, post request on all those things. And velocity X is something which you can use to actually if you want to do some CSS kind of thing, then you can use it to ease your UI development approach. So that is something, if you want, I can show you. Otherwise, we can right now skip it. So now I think our app is still building. So let me just give you some other details. Let's say what's inside this apart from the library inclusion and all. So there is another thing which is called dev dependencies. So you will include all those dependencies here which are not going to go into your final app, which is a release app or production app. So it is very much similar how we write in package.json. And then it is saying that it by default it is using material design. And then you can specify any font you want to use here, or even any asset, or let's say if you're using images, then you can give the assets folder name here. Okay. And now there is one question: what do you suggest someone who knows basics of Flutter, like everything about status and stateful widgets and all? If that's the case, how to continue hands off forth? So I'll suggest to start building some apps. It can be any kind of application, it can be very small application, that doesn't matter. But once you will start working on it, so you will get the idea. Renuka is saying that, can you give some examples of velocity X? Yeah, I'll try to give. So this is a one-time process. That's why Gradle takes some time. And because I'm trying to do so many things over this screen, so that's why it's a little bit slow. But when you will do the real development on your machine, then it will be very much faster. And for once, Gradle will actually install things for you. But after that, you can use Flutter very efficiently. So I think read previous question. Can you post the question again? Does selecting Java or Kotlin affects release APK size? No, not as such. I mean, it can be hardly few KBs difference, but it doesn't matter. So yes, you can choose any of them. I don't know Android development. Can I directly jump on Flutter and Dart? Yes, you can, but I will prefer if you have basic programming language. Otherwise, it can be very difficult for you. So guys, it is taking some time. I'll try to run it on my Mac OS desktop so that we can have multiple things running here. Whatever will run faster, we will use that. So I hope this is just for the first time, and live demos are always like this. So just pardon me if things does not get good. Okay, so Flutter can use for AI and ML in future. We don't know about future. Future can be very different. So I hope that you can use anything with Flutter. If let's say if there is some plugin which is not available, then also you can use platform channels for that. But if you have a very specific project which doesn't do a lot of UI things, or it is using hardware, then I'll suggest to go native. Why you have to constraint about the platform or like on which you are building. um, when we make Flutter app, then even simple app size is too large, because initially it uses Dart virtual machine, and it can increase the size of your application in debug mode. But once you go to the release mode, the APK size will be reduced, but minimum size is always at least 4 MB or something. So that is the size of the Flutter engine plus few other things, and they have reduced it a lot, but still it is not perfect. So yeah, there you have to relate with whatever apk you are generating. Let's say in normal native Android, just add 4 MB to it. And in iOS, I think it's more or less the same, because iOS applications are anyway of very large size. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. We are actually still facing issues with the running this. Let me just try it again by stopping all. And this time if it works, then it's a great thing. Otherwise, I'll continue with the demonstration of the code. Like Flask, etc., can we use Flutter for ML AI logic in web apps? Like what kind of logic you want to write, that depends on that. But there are like plugins like TensorFlow Lite which you can use. Apart from that, I don't see any other thing which will directly help you with that. So in that case, I'll prefer to maybe use native Android development or native iOS development, if that's the total use case of your application. So yeah, it depends on the product and the use case for which you are building your application. I almost know the basics of Flutter, and I have developed 2, 3 real-time working apps, like a grocery store app and a basic meetup like app. Can you tell me the approach to upgrade the level? I think upgrading the level is more like you should learn different design patterns, architectures, and other techniques, like how people write code. Like you can go to various open source application, you can see how people are writing their code. And I think by the time you will already learn these things, so don't have to bother. You just have to work on your applications. Okay, so I think it's still taking some time, and because it's a live demo, so yeah, it is supposed to take some time, because earlier it was working fine. So now let me just give you some idea. So if I go to this jiffy page.dart, so this is basically this jiffy page is extending a stateful widget. So before that, if you can see what we are doing here, we are actually importing this http package. Okay, and we are calling it as http, which means we can use this http to call our http methods. And then we are importing another package which is velocity x, which can help you in writing your uis faster, and I'll show you how. So this jiffy page is extending a stateful widget, because this is just a single screen application, and on this screen there will be a lot of things. Let's say when the data is loading, it will show indicator, circular indicator. When the data is arrived, then it will show the gifs to you. It will also take users action, if someone wants to enter something, then he will be able to search for it, right, the gif for it. So that's the idea behind it. So that's why it's a stateful widget. And now in the state class, you will see that it has this URL. This so basically it is using like some API from jiffy.com. And then we have we got the application, by the way. It's running now, so that's a good thing. So it's running on time. We still have some time. So you can see this is the application looks like. There is a search box where you can search for something, and then basically you can click on this button. And let's say if I write here, uh, let's say money heist, so it should show me the gif of money heist. So if I'll click here on the go button, then you will see it shows a circular indicator, and then it will show me all the gifs here. So if you can see it, it is taking some time, I guess, but it should work. So you can see these are the gifs which are coming over here, and this is what we are trying to make. So I have done some more work on this. You can see there is a background as well for the same GIF with some blur, and some I have changed the opacity so that it does not look bad when when the GIFs are not of full size. So let's try something else. Maybe we can write Modi ji. So if we write Modi ji, so we should see the memes of Modi ji, or at least some GIFs. So it shows BJP for sure, yes. And yeah, 9 p.m. April 5th, which is again makes sense. No, like it makes no sense, but okay, it's fine. And you can see Modi ji here. So yeah, these are the gifs which we are gonna build. Okay, so let's now come to the main part. So now in the, let's say in the main dot we have this jiffy page. Now I'll change it and I'll show you how to write this code uh, entirely from scratch. So we will go to this jiffy demo HackOn dart, and I will first of all import the http package. So I can say import and http, and let's say http/http.dart, and I can say as http, um, and then I will import velocity x, and then I will import material.dart. So now we want to make it a stateful widget. So I will say stful, and it will give me a snippet of stateful widget. So I can just call it, let's say, hack on page. And for this hack on page, I can go here in the main.dart, and I can replace this gif page with this hack on page. I need to import this because without importing, you cannot use it. Now, if I refresh it, then you will see that it has changed. This apk this screen, as you can see on the right hand side, it is changed, and now we have a blank black screen. Okay, so basically what is happening is we don't have anything on this file, so that's why it is showing this blank screen. Okay, now rather than container, I will use something called scaffold. So I can say scaffold, and scaffold is another widget which I already talked about. So scaffold gives you many other properties like app bar, you can see drawer, bottom sheet, bottom bar, and all these things. So we can use the background color first of all. Okay, and I'll use velocity x to fetch a color which is gray 800, so that it looks good like how we show it. So now you can see this is the color which we want. So it is of it is a gray 800, and the velocity x package is inspired from tailwind css, so it uses the same colors. Now there is another property called body, and inside body we will use something called a column. Okay, so I can say a column, and inside the column we can have some children, right? So basically column is another widget. So column is basically we want everything in this vertical order. So when you want more than one element, then you can use column for vertical order, and if you want element in horizontal order, then you can use row. Okay, and once we have this, so first thing I want is a text. So inside a text I can use, let's say, Jiffy app. So I can call it, let's say, Jiffy app. So now you can see we have this Jiffy app over on the screen, but it will take few seconds because my system is right now very slow, unfortunately. Okay, so this text will be shown here. So you can see Jiffy app on the top, but it is not like, very visible. So rather than this, we can also use Velocity X to help us in doing it faster. So we can say Jiffy app dot text dot make. What it will do, it will make the text for me, similarly how we write text. But the advantage of using this would be that we can easily say, let's say, dot white, and we can say dot let's say XL4, so that we can get the size of that much. And then we can also say uh, object at center, so object center. Now if I'll refresh it, then you can see we got Jiffy app here, and that is fine. Now with this column, I also want to give some padding. So I'll say dot p16, which means 16 padding from all sides. And this is actually another syntax of Velocity X. So you can wrap it with padding, or you can use p16 for easy use. Okay, so now we have Jiffy app. Now what I want a text here, so that text field here, so that I can write something into it. So for that, I will create here something called text field widget. So text field is basically a widget which will help us in taking input from the user. So text field, I can say it has a property called decoration, and I can say, let's say, input decoration. So it has this property input decoration, and I can like change the way text field looks. So right now, if I'll do that, then you will see our text field looks like, right now you can see, if you can see it, like it's a blank, something like this. Okay, and now I see that my theme is kind of dark, so it does not make sense if I use a white theme. So what I can do in this column, I can wrap it. So I can say alt enter and wrap with widget, and I can wrap it with theme widget. So what it will do, it will ask me what kind of data you want, or like theme data. So I can say theme data and dot dark. So what it will do, it will actually make my theme dark. So now if I refresh it, then you will see it is darker. Now if I write text here, then it will come white. Okay, so this is making sense now. Now what I'll do here in the input decoration, I want different kind of border for this edit text. So I can say border as input. So sorry, I can say outline input border. So it will show me something like this, outline input border, and it should be good. Yes. So now if I do this, then it should have this outline. This is fine. Now I can also give some label text. So what label text will do? So it can assign some label. Let's say I can say search here. Okay. So it will say search here now. And if I remove it, this is fine. Now what I want on the right hand side, I want a button to this text field. So what I can do, I can just copy this text field. Okay, and I can use something called row. So row is basically if you want more elements in horizontal order. So again, it takes a children, and I can say in the expanded, like use the entire space for it will take a child, and you can paste your text field here. So basically expanded means whatever space is left, use it. So it is right now the whole space is available, so that is why it is taking all the search here text. Right now, after expanded, we can use the button called raised button, let's say. So raised button is like there are different kind of buttons in Flutter. So one is a raised button, one is flat button, what is outline button. So basically these are all kind of buttons are inspired from material design. So it takes a property called on pressed. Like once you press it, what will happen? And then it also gives you property called child. So for child, we can say a text. Let's say go. Go is the text. Okay. So now if I refresh it, then you will see there will be a button here with go. But the thing is that what I want is maybe we can also change the size of this button. So for after raised button, I can say, let's say height of 8%. So it is again being done using velocity X. So now this is looking fine, not the best. And even we can give it some rounded shape. So for shape, I can say, let's say Vx dot rounded small. So rounded SM is something which we can use so that it looks fine, a little bit rounded as well. And now you can see it is now rounded. Now what I want, guys, I want to give some space between this text field and this button. So I can say something like let's say 30 dot width box. So it what it will do, it will give a 30 pixel space between these. So now if I refresh it, then you will see so my system is little slow, so it is taking some time, otherwise it is fine. So now we are good with this. Now what we can do, for this entire row we can give some more padding. So let's say we give padding of 8, and yes, we are good. So now it makes sense. Now we have some padding, and now we can enter some text here, and it will like when we press this go button, then we should have some data over here. Okay, some list or some kind of that. So now what I want actually is that I want to access this text data. So right now we haven't seen anything which can help us in accessing this text field data. So for that, what we need in the state class, we need something called a text editing controller. So we will say a text editing controller. So, and I can name it controller, and you can say, let's say new text editing controller. So why I am writing new, because I think you are familiar with new. So basically it means creating a new object of the class. So I can now remove this new because that does not need new. So this is the controller which we can use for our text field. So inside this text field there is a property called controller, and I can pass this controller over here. So now using this controller, I can get the text of this particular field anywhere. So this is the idea. Now what I want, I will have some data. Let's say I have this data, where data. Okay. So if this data will be null, then we will show, let's say nothing found. If this data will not be null, then we will say, we will show the list view or something like that. Okay. So for that, what we can do after this row, or after this text field and all, in the column itself, I can use something called vx conditional. So vx conditional is again another widget taken from velocity X, which can help you in conditionally rendering some widget. So what it takes something like if you will see a condition, which is that data should not be null. So right now it is null, but it should not be null. So if it is not null, then it will give you a builder. Using this builder, you can like generate any widget. So let's say we just text data available. So available. But there is another thing which is fallback. So fallback is something where you can just say, if data is null, then what will happen? So it will write, let's say something like nothing found, and this time I am using velocity X again. So you can use any kind of format which you want. And now if you will see this, then it is showing nothing found here. And let me just increase it a little bit and make it white, let's say XL3. And now it will show nothing found in white color. And why? Because even we don't need white, we can make it gray, because it's actually disturbing with this Giphy app. So now I think it will be fine. So gray 500 is fine. and nothing found because we don't have any data. So our data is basically null over here, right? So now what we will do, we will make a method called get data. So because we use asynchronous programming in Dart, so I can make it async. Okay, and then what I can do, I can uh, fetch a response from I can use this keyword await, and I'll use my http library to get. So basically this http is what I imported initially, but it is gone because I am using I am saying IntelliJ to remove unused import, so I have to import it again. So what I'll do, I'll import it here, and I'll say http, and it will give me this http, and I can say as http, right? And now this http dot get, if you will see this, then it takes a url, so we have to give it some url. So I'll say, let's say url. Okay, but now we don't have any url, so I have actually the url here. So if you can see, this is the url which we are gonna use. And so here I can say, let's say final string url. And if you will see this url, basically what it will do, one second, just to give you some idea, it has this parameter called q, which is for query. So basically for search, we can write anything here in this query, and it will do the searching for us. So here this get data method will take the search input. So we will pass the search input from this get data, and then we will pass it to our url. So we can say search input. So if we will add search input to this url, then it should be fine, right? Now what I want to print whatever response we get. So rest dot body is what we want, right? So body we will get, and we will print it. Now we will call this method get data, like when we click on this button, raised button on pressed. So if I go here, I can say get data, and now it will ask me for search input, like what is the input which you want to give. So I will ask my controller, which is the text controller, and I will ask for dot text. So whatever text we are entering in the text field, it should get that text, and should like call the api and give us this data. So now if I'll refresh it, I'll also open the debug console. So here, let's just perform this operation. So now you can see our hot reload is done. Now if I search here something, let's say I am saying let's say Modi ji again, and if I press on go, then you will see something happened, and we should see some, yes, you can see we got some data here, right? It is printing the data, but nothing is happening on the screen. So what we want, first of all, this data is in string format. Okay, it is totally string. So that's what we are printing, like this body is string. So first of all, we have to parse it so that we can make a map out of it. So where we can actually access these properties, right? So for parsing it, what we can say, we want this data. Okay, so for this data, I can say data is equal to, we have something called JSON decode. So JSON decode can do the decoding for us if we provide the like body here. So we can say rest dot body. So once we get the body, so let me just show you what if you will hit this API somewhere else, then how it will be like. Okay, so if we go to the browser, let's say we are opening this URL in the browser. So this is, let me open another browser somewhere here, maybe this one only. Okay, let's try to open that URL so that we can get the idea how does it look like. So one second, exit, and here if I click on the plus tab, And let me just paste this URL. Okay. So I'll copy this URL again. And if I go here and if I paste it here again, and let me also make this query as, let's say, Modi ji. Why I'm doing this? Just to show you that you can understand how this works. Okay, so you can see we are getting this data, which is some list. And inside this list, we have something called images. And inside images, we have this um, fixed height which we will use, and from there we can access the URL. So that is the concept. So basically right now what we need is data. So here after this response dot body, I can say that I want data. Okay, and once I get the data, it should go here, and it should like say data available. Okay, so now if I refresh it, like if I reload it, hot reload it, so let me just try saving it. So let's save it, and it's hot reloading it. So now if I will press here again with go, then you will see that it is still saying nothing found. So basically, even though we have set the data, so if we check the debug, we haven't got the data yet, I guess, but we should get it now. Let's save it again. Yes, you can see let's it's showing data available. Let's say Modi ji. Okay, actually what we have to do, we have to restart this app, because now it will show data available all the time and it will be confusing. So let me just restart the app, and now if you will see, this will restart the application instantly, but it is taking some time for some reason. Yes, so now it is working fine. Let me just clear the console. Now you can see nothing found. Now let's say if I write something over here, let's say this, if I press go button, then you will see that it will fetch the data, but it will still say that nothing found. So if let me just click it again. So now it is fetching the data, and okay, so we are not printing it actually, so that's why we don't know if it is happening. So it is actually printing, it is fetching the data, but it is not showing to us. So that is the problem. If I save it, then you will see that it will say data available. So the reason is that once we get the data, we have to call set state so that it can actually build our entire UI. So we can say set state, and now whenever you will get the data, it will give you the data available. And rather than data available, let's actually use the data. So here, rather than saying this text data available, we will use something called a grid view. So grid view, let's say grid view dot builder. This is, sorry, this we want grid view dot builder. So we can use this thing. It will ask us for grid delegate, so we can use a grid delegate, which is basically a sliver grid delegate. So if you will write grid delegate, then you will get this sliver grid delegate with actually a method called cross axis count. So basically you can specify how many items you want in a row. So I can say, let's say cross axis count. I'll use velocity x to check if it is mobile. If it is mobile, if it is mobile, then I'll say I want two items in a row. Otherwise, if it is web, then I want three items in a row. Okay, so this is what it is saying. Now after that, this item builder, and we have something called item length. So we can say item count. So we have to set which data we are actually using. So if you will see here, it has this property item count. So we can say data dot length. So whatever data is coming, we will give a length from there. And then we can, using this item builder, we can actually, if you will use this control space, then it will give you this context comma index. Now first of all, I want the URL of the GIF file. Okay, so I'll say URL. And how I will get it? So if you'll see here, it's inside this images. So if you'll see this images, inside images we have fixed height, and inside fixed height we have URL. So we can say, what we can say, the data of this particular index we need, then we need images, then we need fixed height, and then we need URL. Okay, and now for this index, like whatever you are getting with this, it can show you some error because one second guys. So this URL, once you got it, maybe you can use toString so that it does not give you some error. Okay, yeah, so once you get that, now we can actually return a widget. So let's try with returning a text and saying this URL. Now let's refresh it and let's see if that works. And then we will replace it with other things. So let's say rather than text, then we can say image itself. And now if you will see, then if I click here, so it's giving me some error, and it's showing that this is going out of bound. So basically we haven't given any height for this grid view builder. So for VX conditional, what I can say, I can give it of height, let's say of 60% of height or 70% of height. So I can say height, and I can say context dot percent height. So it will give me percent height, and I can multiply it with 70, so that I want 70% of height, so that it does not throw me this error. And now if I do a hot reload, then you can see we got this URL now everywhere, this text. Now what we have to do, rather than this text, we want to replace it with image.network, and then we can pass the URL. And once we do it, uh, so now if you will just refresh it a little bit, then you can see we got this, right? So it's still loading, and then we can just say dot card dot make, so that it can also convert it to a card, and maybe we can make that card rounded. So we can say dot rounded sm. And now if I'll refresh it, then you will see a card. So I'm not going to explain, sorry, it's not using this. So we will use rounded sm. Okay, so I think I misspelled it. Yes, this should work. So now it will wrap it with the card, and basically this will look like this. Okay, so it is not taking the entire space, but for the simplicity of this project, what I'll do, inside this image.network, there is a property called fit. So in the fit, I can actually say that box fit dot cover. And because we are running out of time, I want to give you the idea, like how to show indicator and all. You can refer to the code. I'll publish it on GitHub. So on GitHub, I am Pawan, so you can check it out. So now let me just try to change this, and let's write something else which we haven't used so far. So let's say virus. If we search it, then you will see there is no indicator as of now. We will add it later, but now we should see some virus. Okay, this is what it is showing. This gifs is what it's showing. And the good part is that if you see this, that for mobile I am using 2 items in a row, but for web I am writing 3 items in a row. So if I'll just try to like stretches, then you will see that I will see items rather than 2. So it is responsive. It works on all platforms. I have already tested it on mobile, web, and desktop. But because we cannot perform so many things here. uh, so that's why I'm skipping that part, but let me show you the original code which I wrote, and that is more or less the same thing. And let me just replace this HackOn page with the Jiffy page again, so that I can give you an idea quickly. And let's just import it. And now if I show you the Jiffy page, then you will see this is the same thing. This time we have something called a boolean called show loading, which is false. Let me just do a hot restart so that can work. Okay, so show loading is there, which is false by default. Once we get the data, so once we are performing get data, we say show loading into true, and once we get the data, we again say it false. And here, rather than this vx conditional, we are checking if show loading, then we are showing circular indicator. Otherwise we are doing the same thing which I just showed you. And there inside it, we are using a backdrop filter to blur the thing, as well as to actually give some shadow kind of feeling. And yeah, that's what we are doing. And now if I search here, let's say something else this time, we can search what's trending. Let's say Android, something like this. And if I press go button, then you can see the search icon. And and it's not like you have to use velocity x or something. You can totally use your normal random like text widgets and all. I just used it so that I can like ease the process, and I can do things on time. We are already short of like time now. So yeah, I hope you got the idea how to create your Android application or iOS application. This works on all platforms, but because I cannot right now show you, so yeah, that's something which we will miss as of now. But I'll take your questions now. Maybe let's go back to slides, and let's go ahead. So let's see what's next, and I'll end it very soon now. Um, so basically, we made a kind of a GIF search engine, and yeah, that was the experience. So basically all these tutorials are available on my YouTube channel, which is MTechViral. And right now we have like 52,000 subscribers and something. And basically we are using velocity just to sorry for interrupting in between, but velocity is used to actually ease the process. And like if the UI building is like too common, I have made a video on it. It will be published very soon. I gave a talk in Flutter week, and that video will be published soon on my channel as well, so you can see why to use velocity x in there. So that's how I will end my presentation. Thank you so much for joining, and thanks for the like HackOn team for inviting me here again and organizing this great online event. So if you have any question, you can ask me, and maybe the team can tell me how much time we can give to questions. So yeah, if any other question rather than this, then please ask it again if I missed it already. What is the best way of state management, block or provider? It depends from person to person. Honestly, I personally use both of them. I like for some things I use provider, and for some other stuff I use block pattern. So yeah, it depends from people to people. Like some people use Mobex as well. Some people use Redux. So it is also something which depends on your experience, like what you have used in the past, what you are most familiar with. And if you want to play with all of them, then it's fine. So yeah, that's I guess the main thing. um, in your YouTube videos, is Firebase part upgraded? Not yet, but I'm working on it. So Firebase has had a lot of changes recently. So I was waiting for 1.0. So now I think most of the things are stable. So I'll be upgrading it very soon. And it's in fact I am working on a course over it. So yeah, that will be available very soon. Can we get your slides of this session and the link to learn Dart and projects in Flutter, either GitHub or other websites? Yes. So if you want to get these slides and links, So you can reach me on Twitter. Like I will share that on Twitter. So my Twitter handle you can see here. I am the PK. This one, this is which is highlighted with the cursor. So I'll share the link over there, so you can definitely check it out maybe tomorrow, because I haven't uploaded it anywhere yet. What is Kotlin? Kotlin is a language, first of all. Do we have to learn it in order to bug fix, etc.? I mean, like bugs are always there. I mean, why you will learn a language just to fix your bugs? And I don't know, if you have like written it in C, then how you can fix it with Kotlin? That's some difficult question for me. Give some important shortcut keys for Android Studio for Flutter project. I can definitely make a different video on it, but it's not like right now I can share all the shortcuts. It will be tough, and we don't have sufficient time. This video will remain in server. Yes, I hope so. Otherwise, we will also try to share. I'll ask the team if we can share it on my channel as well. So yeah, I hope so. Give some important. Oh, okay, it's done. Your teaching method is so much good. Oh, thank you so much, Amritesh. I hope that people could understand, and because it's a live thing, so my system went slow because we live in India, and there is like this on this summertime, this machine can behave weirdly, and yeah, network is also a issue, and live coding is always little bit tough, but hopefully everything worked at end. So yeah, all good. So I think if any more questions are there, then please let me know. And more or less, this is just to start, Flutter development. There will be a lot of things which I definitely cannot cover right now. So I just wanted to give you basic idea how you can start, and the best way of starting any kind of development is starting like with examples, or something like these practical applications. It can be anything. It can be a calculator or whatever. It doesn't matter actually. What matters is that you are practicing regularly over something. The theory is fine for one day, but then practical is important. Which database is good to connect with Flutter project? I think even if you are asking about client side, then personally, I feel SQLite works pretty well. So you don't have to do anything like advanced or that. Velocity package is Dart package. Yes, it must be installed when you want to create app using Flutter. No, it's an external package which I created. If you want to use it, it's fine. Otherwise, you can totally ignore it. Can you share your YouTube channel link? It's youtube.com/mtechviral. Let me try to post it as well if I can do that. Um, I think I cannot do that. Maybe I can do that, but it's not working for me for some reason. So maybe the team will share this channel link, but it's youtube.com/mtechviral. How to create a production level app? It will like by the time you will learn it, so you will create it. That's the shortest answer I can think of, but yeah, it takes some time to learn all the things, and that's how, like, this is how you create a production level app as well. It's not like there is something different which you have to do. Shouldn't we go for Firebase? You can. I mean, it's totally your choice, but at the end, Firebase has a different, business stuff. Like for different purpose, Firebase can be really helpful, but for different purpose, a business can have a different requirement. So maybe they will use different, like their own backend or something. Which framework we have to use, React Native or Flutter, in keeping view of future? I think both of them can survive. Why to like have a choice all the time? Where to get certificate? There is no certification as of now with Flutter, but I don't understand why people need certification. I mean, if you are good, you will anyway get the job. So why you need certification? Just to hang it in some wall or what? Like, what is the purpose? I am not a huge fan of certifications, to be honest. So maybe probably the, like, not a right person to ask. Please make videos on one-to-one chat app in Flutter using Firebase. I think there are many videos like that already available. It's not. It's like I cannot create tutorials for everything, but yes, if there will be a use case, I'll definitely do it. But if something is already available, then I think it does not make much sense to make it again. Until unless it is not good. So yeah, maybe in future I'll check what I can make. So can you share your Flutter success story? I don't even know if it is a some kind of success story, but definitely not right now. Some other day, that would be great. I think there is no further talk. That's why I am getting sufficient time to interact. But yeah, that's a good thing. Is there any front end developer role in Flutter app development? Yes, definitely. I mean, some people just want you to create UIs. So yeah, it can be a like possibility. But most of the time, what happens? People want you to develop apps. Most of the time, client side is always about doing front ending. But yes, sometimes you should learn that how to integrate things, how to deal with the HTTP servers and maybe integrating payment gateways. A lot of things are there. So yeah, which language is good for backend in Flutter? It depends. Again, it depends from person to person. Many people use Node.js with Flutter as well. Few people use Python. I where I was working, they were using .NET Core. So yeah, it depends like totally on the company or the person. How we can we make group in chat app like how you do? Thank you, Jaldeep. I'm happy that you enjoyed the session. But yeah, obviously it's something which will take some time for people to understand, because it's not like I will make a video and you will totally learn it in one day. It takes some time to understand the concepts. So please go ahead and try it out. There are sufficient videos. I have like created like not thousand, but yeah, I think 400 500 videos on Flutter and some other texts as well, so you can check it out. Can you make video on Get It? I haven't Get It. I haven't used Get It so far. To be honest, it's been in existence from a long time, and even the creator is a great friend of mine. But I haven't used it, so that's why I haven't never created video on it. But whenever I'll actually use it, then I'll definitely create a video about it, because I make videos on those things only which I actually use. Otherwise, it does not like I if I'm not using something, then my point of view doesn't matter. Can we integrate ML Flutter? Kind of. If you want to use ML Kit from Firebase, you can use it. Even if you want to use TensorFlow Lite, then you can use it. Uh, can we? Okay, it's done. Can you make a video showing integrating Python with Flutter? Like how? I have made a video on how to consume Python APIs in Flutter and how to create those APIs in Python. So if you'll go to my channel, you will find it. There is something called Stack Overflow app. So you can search it, Stack Overflow app Flutter Python, or you can go to school.mtechviral.com. There is a section for that, so you can check it out, and that is free. Can we do tracking kind of thing using Flutter? Yes, why not? I mean, you can use it. Which was your first Flutter app? I don't remember. I mean, I made my first Flutter app in 2017. Oh, in the beginning of 2017. So it's a long time. I started with the counter app only. Not even counter, I think that time. I don't remember. What is the scope of Flutter in freelancing? It's quite good. I have been doing freelancing as well. From where I can learn vector graph and trees. Please reply. Vector graph and trees. I think there are many resources. I can like I have to check like what is the best resource. I don't know myself. It also depends like what people like. Some people like articles. Some people prefer videos. So it also depends from person to person. How long it took to build Velocity X? It took I mean the most important part was the iterations of it. Like I don't like make packages just for the fun. I actually wanted to make something which can be as performant as Flutter. So it took some iterations, and then it was very easy. So it totally took around 15 20 days for me, something like that. initially. From where did you learn? I learned from so many sources. I cannot name one. I mean, initially there was no source for Flutter, so I mostly learned it from the documentation and by trying. So yeah, I think there is a form which you can fill for certificates, which is being shared by Coding Blocks. So please check it out. And I think we are done with the questions. So thank you so much for joining. And yeah, I'll be making more videos on MTechViral. You can subscribe there, and you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and yeah, there will be more such events. So see you in one of those events. Bye bye. Take care and have a good night. So I think we can like go with that.